Well, we're getting ready for the rest of the Week 5 NFL action. It looks like some of you have some last-minute fantasy football lineup questions for this week. Reminder, every Sunday, the Q&A is devoted specifically to fantasy football and fantasy football alone. You can tweet your questions to pfspot_Schlegel on Twitter. I'll put that information in the description box. I also do these Q&As Tuesday and Thursday where you can ask me both fantasy football and sports-related questions. So let's get started off here. I'll try and fire through this as quickly as possible. Baller B. Scott asks, who to start in my flex this week? A.J. Green, Jeremy Maclin, or Steve Smith? Well, I'll say if you're considering A.J. Green in your flex position, you must be pretty good at wide receiver. And even looking at these other options that you have, they're not that bad. Here's what I'll tell you. Steve Smith's matchup's not the best against the Colts, having maybe to go against Vontae Davis. I'm not sure how good Macklin's matchup is, I believe, going against the St. Louis Rams. Just a general piece of advice. When in doubt, always go with the star. When in doubt, always go with the guy with the most upside. In this case, that's A.J. Green. And here's why I say that, Baller B. Scott, is if you were to gamble this week, and let's say you put in Jeremy Maclin, and he had 15 points and A.J. Green put up 8, you'll feel really good about yourself. But if you sit there and put in, let's say, Jeremy Maclin again, and he puts up 5 points, and A.J. Green puts up 10, you're going to feel stupid. If you put in Steve Smith, and he has 10, but A.J. Green has 20, you will also feel stupid. My point is that it's easier to justify putting in the star than it is the lower tier guy. If you put in that lower tier guy over the star, that lower tier guy really needs to pay off, because otherwise you're going to regret it. And you're going to be like, well, why the hell didn't I just play the star anyways? At least if you play the star and he doesn't produce, you don't feel so bad, because you'll be like, well, a lot of other people would have done that too, because he's the better player. He's the bigger star. I drafted him that high. How many people would actually bench him this week? When in doubt, when all else fails, your tiebreaker should be star and star level. That's my opinion. I think that's the way to work it, because you have to trust that the overall talent would play out. So in this case, I would rank them Green 1, Steve Smith 2, Maclin 3. That's the way I would go. And that should be kind of your tiebreaker in these type of scenarios. Are you a Turtle 44? Asked, I need to pick 2 running backs for Sunday. Who do I go with between Arian Foster, Darren Sproles, Justin Forsett, and Ben Tate? Ugh. The Titans can be run on, but we don't know how Ben Tate is going to be deployed yet. So you might have to hold off a week on him. I think Arian Foster with the hamstring issue has to be really concerning. Dallas's defense has been a little better against the run. But like I said, I'm more concerned about the injury. So I think at this point in time, if you're playing it safe, you got to go with Forsett and Sproles. If you want to roll the dice a little bit, maybe you go with Tate over Sproles. Like I said, Foster could play totally healthy and have a big week, and I could look like a jackass. But again, I think you got to play it safe. Looking at how he was utilized last week, he seemed limited. He didn't do anything on the ground. He did something through the air, but he didn't do that much through the air to compensate for the total lack of effort that he gave you on the ground. Pittsburgh Fan 0, pick 2 of the 3 to start, please. Justin Forsett, Golden Tate, and Zach Stacy in a non-PPR league. I think you got to go with Forsett and Zach Stacy. When in doubt, go with a running back. That's another kind of role in general, especially if we're talking about Golden Tate, so another team's number 2 wide receiver. And the reason I say that is that a running back has the ability to impact the game potentially, both via the ground and the air, where a wide receiver, by and large, is only going to do it via one dimension. When in doubt, I want as many possible avenues to have a player score for me as they potentially can have. That's not saying Zach Stacy's going to catch a ton of balls out of the backfield, but there's always that possibility. How many times a game is Golden Tate going to run with the ball? You get what I'm saying? So I would say Forsett and Stacy. Madden God 45, should I take a chance on Darren Revis of the Panthers this week? I'm pretty thin at running back right now. Yeah, I think you should. I mean, the matchup is there. The opportunities look like they could be there because Williams is out, Stewart's out, Tolbert's out. Somebody's got to get some carries in that Panthers offense. So I think if you're thin and you need to gamble and roll the dice, Madden God 45, Darren Reeves is the way to go because you're guaranteed he's going to start. How many carries? How is he going to produce? You don't know. But you also got to like the matchup because the Bears' defense sucks, period. History Buff 188. Should I drop Doug Martin for Frank Gore? you need to follow up with me on Twitter on this, because just because you determine that Doug Martin is the running back to drop doesn't mean that he actually should be. And I don't say that to insult you, but I'm just being honest with you here. Maybe you could send me like a screen cap of your entire roster before you make a move like this. Because I'd have to think there's maybe a wide receiver or a second quarterback or a second kicker or a second defense, or there's somebody stupid on your bench that you could drop to where you could still keep Doug Martin, who you probably spend a second or third round pick on, in order to get Frank Gore. So maybe hit me up on Twitter, HistoryBuff188, and let me know more about your roster, whether it be you type out what your roster is or maybe a screen cap. Let me know who else is available on the waiver wire besides Frank Gore. Riddlin V1. Who should I start in the flex this Sunday? Running back Kyrie Robinson of the Saints or wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders for Denver? Ugh. Like I said before, when in doubt, go with the running back. I mean, I'm just not sure how many touchdowns an Emmanuel Sanders is going to catch this year. Whereas Kyrie Robinson, if the Saints get into a goal line situation, he could get some goal line carries. But it's always hard, if it's not Jimmy Graham, to really count on anybody in that Saints offense. It really is. I guess maybe Kyrie Robinson, maybe. Headcase 814 had Andy Dalton on bye last week, so I picked up Eli Manning. Was last week just a fluke, or should I go with Eli from here on out? I don't know if you should go with him from here on out. Should you feel relatively confident that he might be the better option for you in week number 5 going against Atlanta compared to Andy Dalton going against the Patriots? Yes, I think so. I think you should feel safe about deploying Eli Manning in week 5. After that, let's revisit it after that Falcons game. Slider 15, I trade Gordon and Bo for Reggie Bush or I think he's asking, should I trade Josh Gordon and Dwayne Bowe for Reggie Bush and Andrew Hawkins? My running backs right now are Mark Ingram, Frank Gore, Stephen Ridley, and Chris Ivory. No. Slider 15, follow up with this on Twitter to me, because I want to know what else is on your roster, what you're sitting at in the standings right now. Because if you're 0-4 and you're desperate, you might have no choice. But if you're sitting pretty good, I wouldn't really advocate this, because you've got Gore, you've got Ridley, you've got Ivory. Ingram will be coming back soon. I'm just not sure you're going to need Reggie Bush. And Andrew Hawkins gets some catches, but how many touchdowns is he going to score again this year? So what I'm saying is that let me know more about your league scoring settings, where you're at in the standings. I need to know your whole roster before I tell you. At this point in time, without having more information, Slider 15, I would say no. But like I said, hit me up on Twitter and let me know these other things. I can give you a more definitive answer. Irate_assassin, which 3 wide receivers should I start this week? Jeremy Maclin, Brandon Marshall, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Steve Smith, and Roddy White. Well, aren't you fucking loaded at wide receiver? Very nicely. You either, you must have went wide receiver, the first 3 rounds. So I would assume wide receivers are carrying their day. Might I suggest, if you're weak at running back, taking 1 or 2 of these wide receivers and trying to trade them away to get some help at running back? I'm not saying you're weak at running back, because I don't know, but based off of the draft position and where you got different guys, just guessing, you probably do need some help at running back. But if you don't, that's fine. 3 wide receivers to start. I think you got to go Brandon Marshall. And even though he might be facing Patrick Peterson, I do think you got to go with Demaryius Thomas. Again, you got to go with the star power. And then in terms of the other matchups, I'd say maybe Steve Smith. Funk Wilder. I have 1 tight end, Niles Paul. I'm not sure if he'll start on Monday, nor am I. In terms of guys on waivers, there's Heath Miller, Dwayne Allen, and Owen Daniels. Yes, you should pick up one of them. You probably go ahead and just drop Niles Paul entirely. I'd say you either want to look at Allen or Daniels, and I'll leave that up to you in terms of who you'd want to target. I think Daniels might get more red zone targets, where Allen might get more total targets and opportunities. I don't know about Heath Miller. A. Samuel 9529 closes out this Q&A by asking Zach Stacy, Ahmad Bradshaw, Andre Ellington, Kelvin Benjamin, Jerick McKinnon, and Emmanuel Sanders. Need 1 running back and 1 flex. Keep in mind that for the Thursday night games, if you're asking me these questions for the Sunday Q&A, They will get answered in time. Sorry, man. I hope you didn't put McKinnon in. One running back and one flex out of the ones that you named. I think your flex has to be Kelvin Benjamin going against the Bears, and I would maybe take Ahmad Bradshaw. Yes, even going against the Ravens. So I'd probably say Bradshaw and Benjamin. So thanks to you guys that sent in your questions. Like I said, if you got last-minute questions as you see this video and you're desperate for help, hit me up on Twitter at pfspot_schlegel. I will see you later.